The enormous man loomed in the dark corner of my room, peering at me through swollen slits surrounded by layers of wrinkles and century-old crust. Each breath from his aged body came with a deep wheeze, and elastic strands of saliva dripped from his grotesquely large head, at least 2 or 3 times the size of a normal man's. Even with his hunched and deformed posture, he had to be nearly 7 feet tall. His heavy, grease-covered arms hung limply at his sides, and his long, jagged nails painted a gruesome picture of flesh being effortlessly torn apart. I cowered by the bedside, calculating whether I could reach the door before his monstrous frame moved to drag me into the depths of hell. Neither of us dared to act. The dense air between us held an unspoken agreement. Any movement would shatter the fragile balance and dictate everything that followed. I couldn't die here. My leg twitched, preparing for the most important sprint of my life, and that tiny motion was enough to trigger him. His eyes bulged like swollen orbs, pupils reduced to small black dots tracking my every move. Desperate, I flung the sheets toward him and lunged forward, scrambling like a frightened animal toward the door. A primal scream tore from my throat as my fingers brushed the cold metal of the doorknob. But then a warm, sticky sensation wrapped around my calf. I twisted around and saw his monstrous hand coiling around my leg, squeezing like a serpent crushing its prey. I thrashed, trying to kick myself free, but his strength was beyond comprehension, an unsettling contrast to his withered, decaying appearance. His pointed, grotesque nose twitched frantically in the air as if savoring my fear, consuming it. His absurdly long arm groaned like old wood as he pulled me toward him. My nails dug into the carpet, scraping until blood dripped from my fingertips, kicking and screaming like a cornered animal caught in a deadly trap. A deep, rumbling sound escaped from the man, something resembling a slow, distorted laugh. Finally, he pulled me to him, his face stretched into a wide grin, revealing hundreds of crooked, yellow teeth. For a moment, he simply stared at me. It felt as if his eyes could see every cell in my body. Then he stopped. His massive hands gripped my shoulders, and without effort, he threw me back onto the bed. I tried to run for the door again, but before I could get close, I was dragged back once more. This time, he didn't hesitate. My body slammed against the wall with enough force to knock the air from my lungs before he placed me back on the bed, a punishment for trying to escape. This time, his monstrous figure blocked any chance of getting out. And then he spoke. His words were slow, each syllable heavy and drawn out. His voice was rough, as if his throat were raw and covered in sores, yet still eerily clear. "You called for me. What?" My voice trembled as I fought back tears and an oncoming panic attack. The man huffed, stepped back, and pointed a long, twisted finger toward the ground. "You called for me. Here. I am here." I shook my head frantically, forcing out a weak response. "And no, I didn't." He stomped his foot, spun around abruptly, and let out a guttural, wet noise before turning back to me, his hands pressed together in a grotesque imitation of a prayer. "You called for me." A wide grin stretched across his face once more. His eyes rolled back, revealing nothing but white, as his jaw unhinged from its natural position. And then, without moving his lips, a sound emerged from deep within him. It wasn't an echo nor a whisper. It was a voice. My voice. Tears streamed down my face. Each breath carried a weight that crushed my chest. No wonder I'd been sinking into despair. My life at 32 wasn't anything close to what I had imagined. Financial problems piled up, while my dreams slipped through my fingers one by one. I was becoming just another face in the crowd, just another insignificant name destined to disappear into the gray fog of mediocrity. No legacy, no purpose, just the constant pain of existing in a world that didn't seem to care. The news was a daily reminder that everything was getting worse. My friends were slipping away. My brother was sick. He never told me exactly what it was, but every time I saw him, he looked worse. My life had become a never-ending cycle of emptiness. Days blurred together in a monotony, until one day, death would come to offer the only certainty left. To make matters worse, I was alone. A 3-year relationship had ended a few months ago, and every moment was a painful reminder that, despite my efforts, I was never good enough for others. Meanwhile, people worse than me seemed to find happiness, build families, and have something to live for. I was exhausted, lost. I'd never been religious. I'd abandoned faith long ago, but somehow, a part of me still clung to the hope that something greater could hear me. Maybe that's why I prayed that night. The same prayer now coming from the mouth of that monstrous being. Please, I don't know who or what is out there. My voice faltered through sobs. But I'm at my limit. I don't know where I'm going, or if it's even worth continuing. I've tried to be a good man. I haven't always succeeded, but I tried. If anyone up there is listening, please send me a sign. Show me a way. I don't want to be rich or powerful. All I ask, all I need is a guide, a guardian angel to show me purpose. And, if possible, a bit of happiness. Just a little. When my plea ended, the creature snapped its jaw shut with a sickening crack, a sound of bones locking together violently. Its eyes rolled forward, refocusing on me, and that smile grew even wider. Then I understood. I stepped back, feeling the blood freeze in my veins. No, 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 I whispered, shaking my head. This can't be happening. I wanted to be wrong, but as if it could hear my thoughts, the creature gave a slight nod. Then it slowly turned and walked toward the door. Its grotesque body, too large for the frame, squeezed through the opening as if the world itself bent to accommodate it. I stood there, hoping it would never return. But as it reached the street, it glanced back. Just a glance. Enough to make me understand. It wanted me to follow, and I did. We walked side by side down the silent streets. A quick look at my phone showed it was well past 2 a.m. A few cars passed by, but none seemed to take notice of the being beside me. We walked for what felt like an eternity without exchanging a word. I didn't know where we were going, but I kept walking. Finally, we reached a foul-smelling canal. The stench was horrendous, thick like rotting flesh. The angel pointed down with its long, twisted finger. I stood at the edge of the dark water, my heart pounding against my chest. Something was down there, something my mind refused to comprehend. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone. I turned on the flashlight, but hesitated. Did I really want to see what was down there? There, lying perfectly still, was a man. His face appeared swollen, his neck pulled at an unnatural angle, and what seemed to be protrusions from broken bones poked through his clothes. I had never seen a dead body before, and even so, it wasn't the shock of that moment that truly made my skin crawl. No. When I shone the light onto the man's face, I saw that he was me. How could this be possible? I wasn't dead. I hadn't done the things I thought about the night before. Had I? Was all of this some kind of hallucination? No, this can't be me. How could I be dead? I'm standing right here. I yelled at the angel. This has to be some kind of misunderstanding or a terrible nightmare. I turned to the angel expecting some kind of answer, but all I got in return was that horrible wide smile. "Say something, damn it. I'm not dead," I shouted, furious at what the angel had shown me. It had to be some kind of trick or hallucination it was inducing. "Stop smiling. I'm not dead. I'm not dead." The angel took a slow step toward me, and I backed up. It took another step. This time I stumbled. Fear shot through my body. My movements were shaky. I thought about grabbing a handful of dirt and throwing it at the creature to distract it while I ran. But thoughts of how that plan had failed back at my apartment flashed through my mind. Maybe if I just turned and ran? Could I go to a friend's house? No one was close enough to go on foot. A police station? None are open at 2 a.m. And besides, I couldn't tell them I was being pursued by an angel from hell. What if I camped inside a convenience store, just until I felt safe? I settled on this plan, but the angel had me by the jugular before I could turn and run. It held me in the air as I struggled to breathe. Its smile seemed to expand more and more, and its dark pupils now filled the entirety of its sclera. It held me over the edge of the canal, stretching out its arm until I was directly over my own dead body. "Get in," it shouted with a visceral hiss. "Get in." Its eyes flashed rainbow colors. "Get in, get in, get in, get in." It shook me up and down. "Your body, your future." It mocked me, unhinging its jaw again and playing back the sound of me crying. I screamed, begging anyone or anything to save me from this demon. "I don't want to die," I pleaded. "I don't want that future. I just want to be happy." I struggled against the angel, but its icy grip held me in place. I feared that if it didn't kill me after dropping me into my dead body down there, it would do so by freezing my airway. Despite its cold touch around my neck, I could feel my skin beginning to burn. Scorching flames appeared simultaneously from the dead body below. With each passing second, I sweated more profusely, every drop raising the columns of fire toward me. The unmistakable sound of maggots crawling over each other to reach soft flesh filled my ears. The unmistakable sight of cockroaches streaming out from under my clothes added another layer of panic from within. All the while, a rising chorus of sobbing from thousands, no millions of tortured souls, each experiencing their own version of damnation, played in the background. This was hell. This was what awaited me in death. What felt like hours passed until finally, I felt solid ground beneath my feet. The fire was gone. The insects had left my body. All I felt was the cool air, and the angel looked down at me. This time he was frowning. Again he spoke, but this time with a voice I hadn't heard before. It was soft and comforting. "You don't want to die yet, do you, my child? You want happiness and love." I tried to speak, but no words came out, so I simply shook my head. The angel nodded. "You are loved, my child. We are watching over you." For a moment, I swore I saw the outline of white wings stretching behind him. He took a step toward me and placed his hand on my forehead. For a long moment, I felt bliss. It was true peace, like I hadn't felt since I was a young boy. The world opened up. Boundless opportunities and energy lay before me. I felt the goodness of humanity and a profound urge to share that goodness. There was nothing to do but smile at this unbelievably beautiful feeling. And then, the cold blade of reality pierced through the bliss. I saw pain, suffering, and sorrow. In an instant, I experienced the slow fall of humanity. The beginning of the end seemed simple enough. A slow degradation of human connection, deeper divisions between people. The fall of objective truth. Small issues that the common man thought would eventually fade away because surely our species was too intelligent and advanced to let it destroy us. Then the problems spiraled out of control. What once seemed to be symptoms of a changing society became defining traits of an increasingly bitter and cold world. All the while, the degradation of our planet, the depletion of our resources, and a species that chose violence over coming together to find solutions, mainly because they couldn't agree on the core issues or causes, led to wars. Disease came, pain, suffering, great fires, 1 billion lost lives, both human and animal, among the ruins of once great cities. A spiral into collective madness brought horrors and a broken society, leaving humans so much different, so much more savage, hateful, raw than any incarnation before it. I saw horrors beyond horrors I dare not repeat here. But what I can say is that there's a lot that can destroy a world. I saw how all these little things came together to form monsters. They intertwined. They fed off each other. They grew, until pain was the only thing man could understand. This was the world that awaited us. When he removed his hand from my forehead, I found myself kneeling as the visions melted away. It was a future I hated. I looked up at the smiling angel. His calm voice returned. "You know what you must do then, yes?" My answer was as sure as anything I had ever contemplated in my life. Yes, the angel, now satisfied, gently guided my head toward its cracked lips and pressed a soft kiss to my forehead before pulling me into a tight embrace. I wept in its arms. Then, unexpectedly, it began to sing to me in a voice more beautiful than anything I had ever heard. For what it's worth, the song was filled with joy. It might have been the most beautiful sound I've ever encountered. It brought back a touch of the bliss I felt earlier. And for a moment, I truly believed everything would be all right. But just as quickly as it came, it vanished. I walked home, already knowing what awaited me. The following day, I went to worship. I won't specify the belief system or institution, but the angel had made it clear. The visions it showed me were true. The fall of humanity was coming. And not only that, the belief system I had joined played a significant part in this downfall. Its angels were watching, smiling down on it all. One might wonder why I choose to be part of something that I know will lead to a terrible future for all of humanity. The answer is simple. The alternative is death. As wrong as it feels, I don't know when that future will arrive. Maybe I'll be part of it, maybe not. But death is certain. It will come for me, just as it does for everyone. But through worship, I have a purpose. I belong to a community, have a philosophy to follow, and a sense of direction. For now, I can delay the eternity of suffering and pain that awaits me. Even if my involvement in this leads to more suffering later on, I don't mind. If you had felt what I felt hanging over my own dead body, and knew how endless a few seconds can feel, you'd do anything to delay that too. It's not like I can stop what's coming. And honestly, I have a sense of purpose now, something I haven't felt in a long time. I'm happy. I even met a woman. Ultimately, I choose to make the most of the moments I can control and take what I can from life. That's enough for me. Hell, if I'm lucky, maybe I'll forget any of this ever happened. But writing this down seems counterproductive to that goal. Maybe that's exactly why I'm doing it. Maybe part of me believes I shouldn't forget. I don't know. Anyway, there's been another major change in my life. Sometimes, I still feel the angel watching me, often with more than one pair of eyes, as if it's not the only thing from the darkness peering into the hearts of men, guiding us in ways beyond our understanding. I still wonder what their purpose is. Is it for entertainment? Curiosity? Whatever the reason, when I'm alone in the dark, I always close my eyes until the first light of day fills the room.